So in this next video in our MSFS Livery Toolkit tutorial series, I'm going to take you through how to create a paint kit. Both 2D and 3D paint kits will be covered here. So first thing is you should have your settings all done, and they were covered in an earlier video, so I'm presuming you've done that already. Settings page is here. So we'll be using the Paintkit Builder. But before I do that, let's just show you, for those unfamiliar with it, is how to mount the virtual file system, the VFS, because we'll be reading aircraft from the VFS in this activity. So to do that, you need Flight Simulator open, and you'll need to keep it open for the duration of this. So then go to Settings, Advanced Options, and turn on Developer Mode. You'll see this bar opened at the top. It's kind of small, but and then under Tools, you want to go to Virtual File System, and this little window will open up. Click on VFS Projector to expand it, and then press Start. Now what this is going to do is it mounts the virtual file system, which means your Windows folder structure can see it. You could look at it manually here and open in Explorer, but we don't need to do that here. But what this means is now the Livery Toolkit can find it. If I go back to that, although we'll be going in Paintkit Builder, I'll just show you a quick way to prove this is working. If you hit Discover Aircraft on the home page, see it's able to check in the virtual file system. It gives this green indicator that we're connected, and we can see we're finding aircraft, some of which are in the VFS. So we don't need to do anything on this home page here. We're going to go into Paintkit Builder. And again, we've got a similar Discover Aircraft button. So this is listed all the aircraft that the application can find. So one important point is you will find it isn't going to list any encrypted aircraft. So for example, the ATR 42/72, I own that, but it's not listed here. I have a feeling some of the essentially purchases from the marketplace that are not stock aircraft might not show up here. So there's nothing I can do about that, unfortunately. That's a limitation imposed by Microsoft. So we've got a long list here. I'm going to use the search filter here, so I'll start typing 330 because I want to make a paint kit for the Airbus A330. Click on it, and you'll see there's a message popping up here telling us it's reading from the virtual file system. So this does take a few minutes. Data is being streamed in from the Microsoft servers. So yeah, it can take a moment or two to complete. When it's done, we'll have a choice of whether we build a 2D paint kit, a 3D paint kit, or both. We will create both, and I'll show you the results of both of them. Okay, so it's finished. We need to pick the variant, so I'll pick the A330-200 Rolls-Royce. And this is a list of all the textures that the utility can find. So it's found, actually not just textures, it's listing the albedo, so the regular color textures, but it's actually found albedo, composite, and normal that goes with it. So although we see ALBD here, that's the name of the albedo texture, these are a full set of albedo, composite, and normal textures. So what we want to do is pick the particular textures that we want to include in our paint kit. So this can be kind of difficult to know what you need. So there's a very useful thing here, 3D preview. If you click that, and that opens up another window. I'll just resize that here, up there, so we can see what we're doing. So as soon as we start picking the textures that we want to include, I'll do is I'll resize this here so we can see both side by side. Okay, so you can see as I picked wings, I know I've got coverage in my Paintkit for the wings. And by the way, this drop down explains which aircraft livery from the default aircraft here, the stock aircraft, which one we're taking. So we're just going to take the default, which I know is a plain white livery. So there is another choice we could have here, which has got some Airbus branding on, but I just want the plain white. So depending on the aircraft, you might see various different liveries in here. If there were other airlines, you could use those as a starting point for your livery. So I don't think we're going to want pitot covers, but I think fuse is the fuselage. So let's grab those. Tail. This little number here is sometimes a useful indicator. It tells you how many times this material is used within the aircraft. So if it's more than one, there's a good chance it's something that's paintable because it's used in multiple liveries. So what's left here? We're kind of got most things, but I think we want our engines and have some missing stuff on the belly there. So let's go down. This seems like a good candidate for the engine. Yes, yes. And to find the belly here, that's probably it. Yes, it is. All right, so that looks like everything I'm likely to want to paint. Obviously, we could get more with the roll surfaces here, flaps and so on, but don't need that for this simple activity here. So I think we're good to go. So next is what we want to build. So we've got two options, build 2D Paintkit and build 3D. Build both at the same time so you can see what they look like. So in the 2D Paintkit, this will create PSD, so Photoshop files, although they'll open up in other image editors too, or they should do. And this describes what layers we want. So it's always useful to have the UV wireframe so you can see what you're painting. Paintable area is a black and white layer you can use as a mask. Albedo is pretty important. These layers, ambient occlusion, roughness and metalness, could be useful if you wanted to use the ambient occlusion, say, as the basis for some dirt or weathering. So I'll include all of them. Normal map, you're probably not often going to need that, but I'll include that too, just so you can see what it does. So each of these will be a layer in our Photoshop files. 3D Paintkit will generate a GLTF file with accompanying textures. So we could do our painting in something like Blender or Substance. So only thing left is to choose where we want this to be created. So at the bottom here, it says Save Paintkits to a folder. This is the defaults taken from our settings, so we're good to go. So I'm going to hit Build Paintkits. And here's the folder that it's going to create them in. So we'll just wait a moment for this to populate. So you can see here it's made a folder for the A330. And then underneath here will be two subfolders, the 2D Paintkit and 3D. So it's doing the 2D first. It's pulling out all the texture files. And here we go. We have a 2D Paintkit with a bunch of PSD files and a 3D Paintkit, which is a GLTF and the accompanying image files. So let's take a look at them to see what they look like. So here's one of my 2D Paintkits. This is for the left engine of the A330. So you can see I've got UV wireframe here, which I can toggle off. And then the albedo is the bottom layer. Under here we've got normal map, which we won't need in many cases at all. Metallicness, so white equals metallic, black equals non-metallic, and grey is in between. Roughness, similar. The white areas are rougher, dark areas are smooth and shiny. Ambient occlusion layer, which can be useful sometimes for some dirt effects. And then this paintable layer, you wouldn't have this directly, paintable area, you wouldn't have this directly in your livery, but you could use this as a mask if you wanted to help with painting. So here we do have one of our several PSD files. So now let's fire up Blender and look at the 3D Paintkit as well. Okay, so I've imported the GLTF into Blender. Let's switch to viewport shading. So although it's kind of subtle because it's a white livery, our PNG textures here. So this would enable us to paint directly onto these in Blender if we wanted to. So there you have it, 2D and 3D paint kits, useful for when the aircraft developer hasn't supplied a dedicated paint kit. So if an aircraft developer has supplied a paint kit, certainly if they've supplied a 3D one or 2D one with well-designed layers, then it's probably going to be more useful than the ones my tool can generate here. Typically, the layers will be split into things like panel lines, rivets, dirt, and so on. But if you don't have a paint kit, then this utility does help you generate something usable that will get you started. So hopefully that's useful. Next video in the series, we will look at how to actually create a livery.